I looked out the window as we passed the Auckland Zoo. I was almost home. I had already been on that bus for 5 hours, and it was only a short distance from my home in Auckland, where I could finally relax and see my wife Susie again after 6 months apart. I'm 27 years old, Staff Sergeant Joe Thomas, or rather, I was an active Staff Sergeant just a few hours ago. I just completed my 4 years of active duty service in the U.S. Air Force as a fighter aircraft integrated avionics technician, basically the guy who keeps the aircraft's electronic systems running. I just returned from my third and final 6-month deployment overseas, this time again to Ramstein Air Base in southwest Germany. A few hours ago, I landed in California at Edwards Air Force Base and decided to take a bus home through the Californian countryside. After flying back and forth from Germany, I wanted to relax and watch the world go by while driving home. Also, part of the reason was to think a little about my future. Now that my active service has ended, I need to decide what I will do next. My father, Bill Thomas, worked as an electrical contractor all his life, managing the family business in Oakland for many years. When I graduated from high school, my twin brother John and I were trained by our father. I then joined the Air Force, becoming a qualified electrician, while my brother stayed to help Mom and Dad run the business. I'm hesitant about going back to work there. I'm just thinking about trying something new, something different. Of course, I will always have an open offer to work in the family business, and it will be great to see Mom, Dad, Susie, and John regularly again. However, the thought of climbing the ceilings of houses and dealing with brainless homeowners again was something I would rather avoid. Then there is my wife Susie, a girl I started dating during my apprenticeship, and whom I married the year after I enlisted. Our marriage did not turn out to be what I had hoped, slowly going from good to bad. The 6 months leading up to my current deployment started off well, but I felt like we were slowly drifting apart during this period. Being away for the last 6 months after that probably didn't help either. Perhaps this is due to the fact that we have been married for 3 years and together for more than 5. So maybe the newness of our relationship has started to wear off. The real question is, how do I get that feeling back? Susie also works in the family business, helping my mom run the business, handling the finances, organizing the work, and selling, ordering, and installing electrical equipment, while my dad, John, and the other electricians do the customer work. I'm not sure how she will feel about my decision not to return to business, but to do something new. I always thought she only took the job because she wanted to be close to her family while I was gone, even if it was my family and not hers. Susie is originally from the Midwest and moved to the Bay Area to attend college and major in business. I'm not sure if Dad's business would be so successful now without Susie. Although Mom is officially the management manager, everyone knows that Susie is now running the business. After catching a bus that stopped a few blocks from my house, I decided to walk the rest of the way with my duffel bag in hand, arriving at my doorstep at 4 p.m. I'm not sure if Susie will be home since my scheduled transport to Travis Air Force Base didn't have me arriving until around 7 p.m. and Susie was supposed to pick me up from Fairfield when I arrived. However, I was lucky enough to catch an earlier transport to Edwards, which gave me the opportunity to take a bus around California that afternoon. Walking into the house, it looked exactly the same as when I left 6 months ago. I walked into the bedroom to put my bag down and noticed that the bed was in disarray, with sheets scattered on the floor. I heard the shower running, so maybe Susie was home after all. I went into the bathroom and saw her washing her hair in the shower. I stood there for a few moments to enjoy the sight of my wife in front of me. Susie is about 5'5" tall, with brown eyes and a short brown bob haircut, with small, firm, perfect breasts, beautiful legs, and a round ass. "Are you going to follow me?" Susie winced and screamed back. "My God, you scared me to death. What are you doing at home so early?" "I got on an early transport, and here I am. I'll be out soon, okay?" "I was going to join you. I've spent the better part of the last 24 hours traveling. I'll be done soon, Then you can shower yourself." What? It didn't even sound like Susie was happy to see me. I left the bathroom, took my clothes out of my bag, and took them to the laundry room. By the time I started the washing machine and left the laundry room, Susie came into the living room wearing a robe and a towel on her head. "So are you really done with military service? They didn't force you to sign the contract again." "They tried, but no, my active service is over." "Can they bring you back?" "If war breaks out, maybe within the next 4 years." Susie nodded at me, then turned and headed into the bedroom. I went into the kitchen to get a glass of water. This was not the homecoming from Susie that I had hoped for. I was hoping for at least a hug, a kiss, something. She acted as if I had just returned from shopping and not from a 6-month business trip abroad. This didn't sound like Susie at all. I followed her into our bedroom, standing in the doorway and watching as she hurriedly collected the sheets from the floor and tidied up the bedroom. Eventually, Susie noticed me standing in the doorway. "Are you just going to stand here, or are you going to help me?" "I didn't create this mess. How come the room looks like a tornado went through? Do you sleep restlessly? And in the middle of the day?" Susie looked at me with anger for a few moments. "I was late for work this morning. I came home early to prepare for your return home. And you're not at all happy to see me?" Susie didn't respond to this, continuing to make the bed, so I turned and walked back into the living room, sitting on the sofa. I'm not saying that I suspect Susie of cheating while I was in Germany, but our relationship had already begun to cool before I left. But the fact that she acted like she didn't care that I came home after 6 months was alarming. I decided to just lie back on the couch and not think about it, and within a moment I was asleep. Joe, dinner will be ready soon. Go take a shower." I woke up. It was already dark outside, which means I slept for several hours. I got up and headed to the bathroom, turning on the shower. I undressed and stood under the hot water. It made me feel fresh and relaxed. When I walked back into the dining room, Susie had already set the table and was putting out our dishes. It was porterhouse steaks with mashed potatoes, my favorite. This smells amazing. Welcome home, Joe." "Thank you. We'll also have ice cream for dessert." I looked at Susie with a smile as I began to enjoy my food. "Why didn't you call me from Fairfield so I could pick you up?" "I didn't fly into Travis. I landed in Edwards this morning, so I took the bus here. I thought you'd be at work." "Did you come home straight away, or did you go to Mom and Dad?" "No, go straight home to the warm arms of my loving wife." "Sorry, I had all these plans for the evening and you surprised me. I didn't want to not say hello properly." "Okay, we can make up for it after dinner. I have 6 months to catch up with you." Susie continued to eat, rarely looking me in the eye, and seemed deep in thought. "Do you still enjoy working with my family? You don't have to do that anymore, now that I'm done with my military service." "No, I like working there. I would tell you if it wasn't so. You don't want me to stay there." "I don't care where you work. I just thought maybe you wanted to work there because I was away all the time. But now that I'm back, you can choose what you want to do." "I feel good where I am now. Your mom works great with me." "What about Dad and John? Do they treat you well too?" "Yes, sure. Your dad relies on Betty and me completely. John is always so sweet. The rest of the guys know that I'm the boss, so they treat me well. Otherwise, they are better." We finished dinner, then sat in the living room for ice cream. I was sitting on the couch and Susie sat in the rocking chair instead of next to me. Why do I feel like she's avoiding me? After we ate our ice cream, Susie picked up the TV remote. "Susie, can you leave it off? Come and sit with me, please. I want us to spend time together." Susie reluctantly came and sat next to me on the couch, but instead of leaning back and pressing herself against me, she sat closer to the edge of the couch, causing me to pull her towards me. I leaned in to kiss her, and she turned her head so she could hug me instead. Even this hug felt like I was hugging my sister, not my wife of 3 years. What's going on, Susie? What do you mean? Come on, I know when you keep me at a distance. I was away for 6 months, and you haven't kissed me even once since I came back. I even tried to blame you for not hugging me earlier, and now you don't want to sit with me, hug, or kiss. So what's going on? I just need time to get used to you being home again, I guess. Nonsense. You've never needed time before. What changed? Susie didn't answer, turning away from me. Are you dating someone? Susie looked at me angrily and stood up. I thought she would speak, but instead she bit her tongue and walked towards the bedroom. Where are you going? Can't you answer this simple question? I heard the bedroom door slam shut. I took a few deep breaths, then followed her into the bedroom, not sure if I should apologize or demand an answer. I discovered that she had locked the bedroom door. Susie, what are you doing? Can you open the door so we can talk about this? The answer was silence. I returned to the living room and lay down on the sofa. I didn't know what to think. Was Susie mad at me because I asked her about cheating, or was she mad because I was right and I caught her doing it? Either way, this conversation is definitely not over. I turned on the TV to distract myself and watched the news for a while before falling back to sleep. When I woke up to the morning sun streaming into the living room, I stretched and headed to the kitchen to make myself some coffee. I thought I'd ask if Susie wanted coffee too, so I walked down the hallway toward the bedroom. The door was at least open, but Susie was not there. I checked the bathroom, then returned to the living room. I looked out the window and saw that her car had driven away. Maybe she had already left for work. I checked my phone and saw that it was almost 8 a.m., which was longer than I usually slept. I made coffee but decided to have breakfast out before visiting my mom and dad at the family business downtown. I walked into the garage to find my pickup covered in dust. I asked Susie to use it sometimes while I was abroad, but she didn't seem to do it. I crossed my fingers and turned the ignition. Nothing. I'll need help getting it started. Luckily, the road near my house had a slight slope from the intersection, so I pushed the pickup onto the road, then started pushing it down the hill. Once I had enough speed, I hopped in, put it in second gear, and released the clutch. It started, thank God. I decided it was best to head to the auto repair shop to have them check it out, and they could help if I needed another start. After the car service, I grabbed a syrupy waffle from a cafe near my parents' business, then parked in front of Thomas Electrical Store. When I walked in, there was a young guy behind the counter who must have been one of the new employees. Can I help you, sir? No thanks, I'm fine, I replied, heading towards the service door to exit into the storage area, workshop, and office area. Sorry, only employees can go there. It's okay, I'm Joe Thomas. Are you Bill's son, from the military? Yes, is my family there? Yes, I think they're all here now. Thank you. I walked through the door and looked around the large warehouse and work area. I saw several guys who had worked here for a long time, collecting equipment from the racks. At the end of the warehouse, I saw Susie talking to my twin brother John. Although John and I are twins, we are not identical, more like ordinary brothers. We don't even look alike. I am tall with a strong build, blonde hair, and bluish-gray eyes. I inherited my father's physique, but my mother's hair and eyes. John is shorter than me, with a slimmer build, dark hair and eyes, so his body type is more like his mother's, but he inherited his father's hair and eyes. Interestingly, they did not seem to discuss work matters. It seemed like a private conversation, and I noticed John touching Susie's arm or shoulder from time to time. As I was about to enter the office, I saw Susie and John hugging each other. Perhaps he was consoling her after my interrogation about fidelity yesterday. When I walked into the office, my mom looked happy to see me and came over to hug me. It's great to have you home, dear. So is it true? Are you done with military service? Yes, I did not renew my contract. How are you, Mom? Are you keeping everyone in line? Mom laughed in response to this question. You know, your father does whatever he wants. You're like him in this. When I let go of my mother, my father came and hugged me. My dad's hugs are pretty rare, so I knew he was glad I was back. Good to see you, son. Welcome home. Glad to be home forever, Dad. How did Germany go this time? Did you like it, or has it become too routine for you? It was good. The guys there were great too. Of course, I missed you all terribly. What are you going to do now? No regrets, or will you think about re-enlisting later? No regrets so far. I'm not sure what I'll do next. I'll probably take a couple of days to think about it. You know you always have a job here if you want. Don't push him, Bill. He doesn't need to go back to work right away. We talked about this. It's his business too, Betty, not just John's. This conversation seemed to spark something that had been brewing for a long time between Mom and Dad. I didn't mention to anyone that I didn't plan to work here, so I'm not sure why they were discussing it. Okay, we can talk about what I'll do later. Right now, I'm just glad to be home. The office door opened and John walked in, followed by Susie. Hi, Joe. Nice to see you home. John came over and hugged me. Hey, little brother, how are you? Have you found yourself a good girl? John laughed awkwardly at this question. He had always had difficulty with girls since we were in high school. He always relied on me to meet girls. Then he would try to start relationships with their girlfriends when they hung out with us. But since I started dating Susie and stopped providing him with such opportunities, his personal life has come to a screeching halt. He was more reserved than me and rarely liked to try anything new. The friends we grew up with were my friends first, and John then became friends with them by default. No matter what sport I chose, no matter what classes I took, John followed me. I think a big part of why I joined the army was that I knew it was something John wouldn't do. He would never be directed with me, so what's the point? For the first time, I could be myself without a brother tagging along behind me. So, are you going to sign a new contract with the military, or are you thinking about coming back to work with us? Neither one nor the other. I may try something else. I haven't decided yet. John nodded at this before Dad intervened. Hey, Joe, what are your plans today? Nothing concrete yet, but what? How about you spend the day with me? I have work. Could use your help, and we could chat. Sure, why not? Give me 10 minutes to gather the equipment, and I'll meet you at the rear cargo door. Fine. When Dad went out to the warehouse, John followed him. Susie and Mom headed to their desks as I realized that Susie still hadn't said a word to me since this morning. In fact, she hadn't spoken to me since I asked her about fidelity last night. I walked over to Susie's desk and sat down next to her, speaking in a low voice. Can we talk? Or are you going to pretend I don't exist? I'm not sure we have anything to talk about. Susie looked at me with a cold, determined look. Not until you apologize. I will gladly apologize if you answer the question and explain why you have been acting this way since I returned home. Hell, I saw you have a deeper and more affectionate conversation with John just now than you have with me since I got back. Do you even still want to be my wife? She looked at me again before answering. Just because I didn't rush into the bedroom for sex doesn't mean I cheated on you. But you didn't want to show me any affection at all, as if we weren't even married. Could you explain why? I said I need time to adapt. Adapt to what? So I'll ask again. What's going on, Susie? Nothing. Bill is waiting for you, and I have a lot of work to do. Please just go. I stood up, knowing that I wouldn't get an answer from her now. I walked outside to the truck as Dad was putting the last of his things in the back. Are you ready, Joe? Yes, let's go. We arrived at the site. It was being renovated, but the house was practically dismantled. Dad came here to install all the new wiring. We took out our tools and equipment and went inside. There were also carpenters and laborers on site, and the foreman greeted us upon arrival. At least we didn't have to deal with homeowners. Dad started work here yesterday, so we're already partially finished. I started installing the outlets while Dad continued working on the lighting wiring. A couple of hours later, we took a lunch break while sitting on the back of Dad's truck. Take half of my sandwiches. Your mom always makes too many for me. Thank you. We sat enjoying our meal, watching other kids come in and out of the house. Mom said something this morning about how I shouldn't come back here to work, that you talked about it. What was it? My father looked at me, then shook his head a little. Your mom thinks it's better if you don't work with us, that this is John's best chance to get a good job. I don't agree with that. It's just as much your business as John's. What? Does Mom think I'm disturbing him if I'm here? She feels that he is happy now. She thinks that this is his best chance for a good job, a family, a happy life. What does this have to do with whether I will work with you? She's worried he won't have it if you're here. Damn, I knew he was her favorite, but for her to say that she wishes I wasn't around so he could be happy is just too much. Yes, I know. We've already argued a lot about this. I'm not happy about this situation at all. I don't like it. Wait, what situation are we talking about? Dad looked at me with a surprised expression. Then a look of shock appeared on his face. Damn, you don't know anything, do you? About what? About Mom? John? What are we talking about? Dad turned away, then looked at me again. I shouldn't have explained it. I thought you already knew. She told us that you discussed it. Who was supposed to talk to me about this? I do not understand anything. Susie, she told us that you know. Damn it, Dad, just tell me what you're talking about. Susie and John. They've been together since you left for Germany. She said you two broke up before you left. What the hell, no, we didn't break up. I sat there for a few moments, stunned by Dad's revelation. I've been scratching my head since I got home because she acted cold towards me. And now you're telling me she's with my brother. Dad didn't say anything, just nodded his head. It was clear that he was not happy to be in such a situation either. And both of you, Mom and you, knew that John was with my wife while I was overseas, and that was okay with you. No, I didn't like it. At first your mother was upset too, but then she came to terms with it and began to be happy for them. So they met secretly or didn't even try to hide it. Does everyone in the store know about their relationship? Yes, everyone knows. Damn, John is the meanest man I've ever known. He knows I had no idea about it, and he comes up and hugs me this morning like nothing happened. I'm sorry you found out this way. Susie said that you two decided to break up when you left for Germany. I mean, she and John were best friends even before you left. We just thought they were together after you left because we were both single. No, that means John has been trying to steal my wife for a long time. I can't believe my own brother would do this to me. No, wait, I can. Remember Maddie? She was my first serious girlfriend, and I was so in love with her. She told me that John tried to seduce her at a party one night. I refused to believe her, so she broke up with me. Then Jane, I know he was with her after we broke up, and she later told me that he was always hitting on her while we were together. This scoundrel always wants those women who are with me. I think he always admired you, Joe. Rather, he always envied me. So Mom thinks it's best for me to leave so John can have my wife and family business. She thinks I should give him my house, my truck, and all my money. Will this make her happy? Your mother didn't know they were deceiving her. She thought you left Susie, and she sees her as her daughter. She thought that maybe they could be happy together, but that you would make it difficult if you worked with them every day. Damn John, that idiot is dead to me now. Wait, Joe, he's still your brother. I know you're angry, and you have every right to be, but with time, I'm sure things will get better. Besides, all of this is as much Susie's fault as it is John's. No, John is my brother, my twin. If anyone should have been on my side, it was him. I will never forgive him for this, never in my life. As for Susie, She really turned out to be a bitch. Last night, I asked her if she was cheating on me because of the way she acted when I got home, and she had the audacity to ask me to apologize in the morning. I'm sorry, Joe. This is a complete nightmare. So what are you going to tell John and Susie when you get back to the store, now that you know the truth? Nothing. I think I'll say too much. I told them both enough when I found out they were together after you left, and that was when I thought you and Susie had broken up. I still thought it was wrong when your spot in the bed was still warm, and she let him jump in there. And you're still married. At least they could have waited until you got a divorce. I drank some water, wondering what I should do next. I was furious, but at least one thing they drill into them in training is how to stay calm when you're emotional. I remembered yesterday when I entered my house, not knowing how things would turn out. I remembered my bedroom. I bet they had just finished before I got back. That's why she was so shocked to see me. Maybe she didn't even know if I saw John leaving when I arrived. Are you okay to keep working? I understand if you need time. I'm getting ready to go. Dad, I need time to think about all this. Joe, just don't do anything stupid, okay? If you're worried about me hurting John or Susie, don't worry. I'm not going to ruin my life by taking revenge on them. They're not worth it. These two liars can be together for all I care. Call me later, Joe, so I know where you are and that you're okay, okay? Yes, I'll call you, Dad. I walked down the road towards the store to pick up my pickup. In fact, I was going to just leave, but I couldn't. I walked around the building and entered the office where Mom and Susie worked. Mom raised her head and saw me. Have you finished your work yet? No, Dad is still there. I just came back to talk to my wife who cheated on me with my own brother. What are you talking about? You're not together anymore. No, Mom, I just found out about it. We never separated. They lied to you and Dad. Isn't that right, Susie? How could you do this to me? Susie didn't answer. Instead, she ran out of the office, probably to John's. Do you still want to get rid of me, Mom, so John can have my wife and business? I didn't know. Joe, I thought you left Susie. That's what they told us. Why didn't you talk to me about this when I called you? You and Dad never mentioned Susie and John. We thought talking about them would upset you, that you might just need time to move on. Well, now at least you know they can't be trusted. Good luck relying on them in business. I turned around and walked out of the office, unsure who was making me angrier, Mom or Susie. As soon as I left the office, John approached me. Move away, John, if you know what's best for you. You need to leave, Joe, and not come back. This is not your place anymore. With that, I took a step forward and punched him in the face, knocking him down in one blow. John was never good at fighting. That was always another thing he relied on with me. You are dead to me, John. Do you understand? You are no longer my brother. Never call me, never contact me. If you see me, go the other way. As for Susie, I don't care what you two do, but she's going to have to move her things out of my house today. She better not be there when I return later. I stepped over him, walked out of the store, and jumped into my pickup truck. It's been 3 months since I found out about Susie and John. She moved in with John, and I decided to sell our house. I had too many memories of Susie to stay there. The house sold quickly, and we had enough to pay off the mortgage and still have some left over for me after I split the rest with her. I decided to rent an apartment in South San Francisco to be close to the international airport and aviation industries. Within a week, I got a job with one of the major aviation support firms. Obviously, my skills were in demand, which was nice. Although after training on fighter jets, you will be able to learn something about commercial aircraft. I finally felt settled. New place, new job with a good team. Maybe now I can move on with my life. Mom and Dad came to visit after I moved in, and I even made peace with Mom. Both Susie and John still worked with them, but Mom had since cut back on some of Susie's responsibilities in the business. It was Friday afternoon, and as I was getting off work, Some guys asked me to join them for Friday dinner and drinks in downtown South City, and I happily agreed. We all met at the restaurant at 7:00 p.m. to get something to eat before we got too drunk. By 8:30 p.m., we headed down Grand Avenue to the nearest bar to get the evening started in earnest. While the guys were ordering a tour, I went to the restroom, and upon returning, I bumped into the back of a woman as she was leaving the ladies' room. Sorry about that. Everything is fine, she answered, turning her head towards me. Maddie. Oh my God, Joe, how are you doing? Maddie quickly hugged me. It's probably been 8 years since we last saw each other, when we left school. Maddie was the girl I spent the best years with. She was the first true love of my life. She was also the first girl my brother tried to seduce behind my back. You look great, Maddie, even better than you did in high school. Do you also live in South City, or are you just coming? I live in San Bruno, close to the airport. This is where I work, right next door. I'm here with a bunch of guys I work with. Do you work in the Siberian Federal District? I work there too. Seriously, what are you doing? I run a travel agency. What about you? I'm an avionics technician. How did you get involved in this? I thought you were going to work in your father's electrical business. Yes, I studied with him, but I joined the Air Force as soon as I qualified. And you're no longer in the Air Force? No, I completed my 4 years of military service, and now I'm happy to be a civilian again. Okay, and I heard that you got married too. Yes, I was, but not anymore. We broke up. What about you? There's no way you'll be lonely. Actually, yes, but like you, I too have been separated for about 6 months now. I nodded at Maddie, all my memories and feelings for her flooding my mind. For me, she was always the one who got away. Beautiful, smart, and damn sassy. Sorry, I'm probably stopping you from dating. He will come looking for you soon. You're still so nice, Joe. I don't have a date here, just a few girlfriends. Are they lonely too? What, are you already tired of me? No, never. Some of my guys are single too. Why don't we get our friends together and have a quiet evening? It actually sounds good. We're just sitting at the main table. I'm sure we can bring another table. Okay, I'll move the guys. We returned to our tables, where beer was waiting for me. It took you long enough. Joe, are you okay? Mike asked me. No, I just met an old girl on the way back. The guys I sit with are Mike, Brian, Jay, and Teddy. Teddy was the oldest and the leader of our team. Married man with extensive work experience. Like me, he is also a former military man. The other 3 do the same job as me, and as far as I know, they are all single. So she has friends? Jay asked. Yes, and I have already agreed that we will join them. They are sitting at the table in front. The guys looked at the 3 attractive women at the table, and everyone had smiles on their faces. Damn, they look good. Do you think Joe deserves a promotion after this, Teddy? I'm a married man, remember? You guys can buy Joe a beer as a thank you. Not me, I already have a girlfriend. But it could be a happy evening for the 3 of you, Brian added. Okay, let's stop looking and introduce ourselves. Just remember Mike and Jay. Maddie is a beautiful blonde with big breasts, and she is for me. You can choose which one you like from the other 2. Deal, Mike replied as we all walked up to the table. Hi, Maddie. Hey, Joe, could you bring another table and chairs from there and put them here? Once we had placed the tables together, Maddie began introducing herself. I'm Maddie. This is Bethany and Kyra. Hi, ladies. I'm Joe. This is Jay, Mike, Brian, and our boss, Teddy. And how do you know Joe, Maddie? Kyra asked. He was the first guy I ever fell in love with. We were high school sweethearts. This made both Kyra and Bethany gasp. So you're alone now, Joe, Kyra continued. Yeah, he's single, and don't even think about trying to set us up. He's got a lot of work to do to make amends, Maddie answered for me with a smile. Wow, sounds like you blew it last time, bro, Jay added. Yes, I messed up, and it was serious. I looked at Maddie, who was sitting next to me. She leaned over to whisper in my ear. Are you just saying that, or have you finally realized that I was telling the truth about John? I only recently realized this. He is one of the reasons why I got divorced. I thought about you and what I said to you when I realized what kind of person he really was. I'm so sorry I didn't believe you, I whispered back to Maddie. We were young, and he was your brother. You can try to make amends if you want. I would really like to. Maddie then kissed me on the cheek. Wow, that was fast. Maddie, what did he say to win your favor back so quickly? Bethany asked. I don't kiss and tell. Is it true? Was he your first too? Kyra asked with a huge smile on her face. Guillemot, it's a little personal, especially in front of all these guys we just met. Come on already, Maddie. Okay, yes, he was. Are you happy now? Maddie replied, laughing. What about you, Joe? Was Maddie your first too? Yeah, she was the first and the best, I replied, getting pats on the back from several guys. Is it getting hot in here, or is it just me? Bethany jokes, fanning herself with her hand. Okay, enough about Joe and me. Which guy is the only one here? I need to keep these two ladies busy. It'll be Jay and Mike. Good luck, ladies, Teddy said, laughing and shaking his head. The next couple of hours flew by as we all relaxed and had a good time. Jay and Mike really seemed to get along with Bethany and Kyra, and Teddy and Brian enjoyed their company as well. For me, I enjoyed talking with Maddie. She made me feel so relaxed. I'm sure I had a stupid smile on my face the whole time. Later, I excused myself to go to the toilet, and Maddie did the same. When I finished, I waited for her in the hallway leading back from the restrooms. When she came out, she walked over to me and leaned against the wall next to me. It's so great to see you again, Joe, I mean it. Me too. I forgot how much I enjoyed spending time with you, just to be close to you. I know, really. Maybe it's like they say about your first true love, that you have a connection that you carry with you throughout your life. Maybe I'd like to test that theory. Damn, Joe, you really know how to iron. You can start by giving me your number and then invite me to dinner. What if I want to start with a kiss? Maddie looked into my eyes and laughed cheerfully. Okay, Joe, we can start with this. I leaned over and kissed Maddie, our first real kiss since then. He was better than I remembered. Maddie put her hand on my cheek and wrapped her other arm around my back. I continued kissing her while hugging her tightly. God, how good it was. When we broke the kiss, we looked into each other's eyes. Wow, that was wonderful. You can still do it, Joe. I think it's all you, Maddie. God, I need more of this, I said, leaning in for another kiss. This time, Maddie broke the kiss a little earlier. You said one kiss, not many. We need to get back to the table before I lose control. Should we? If the choice was mine, I would have already taken you home with me. Chill, Tiger, you can invite me to dinner first. I'm not that kind of girl, Maddie replied with a perky smile. Okay, but can I get one more kiss before the end of the evening? Yes, I promise, she said. We returned to the others, and I was full of delight. I couldn't get the kiss with Maddie out of my head. For the next hour, we all continued to talk, also getting up to dance in pairs. Jay is with Bethany, Mike is with Kyra, and Teddy has already gone home to his wife and children. Brian followed soon after, leaving us 3 couples. It was about 1 a.m., and I was slow dancing with Maddie when she told me that she and the girls were going to go home after that song. Remember, you promised me one more kiss before you left? That's why I warn you in advance, so you have time. I looked into her beautiful blue eyes and leaned in for a kiss, gently at first, but then with more passion as our tongues met. It felt like the world was spinning around us, everything focused on our lips as I kissed her with the desire I now felt. When our lips parted, I opened my eyes and looked at Maddie again. She seemed out of breath, did not say anything, did not laugh or answer boldly, which was usual for her. Maddie pulled my head towards her and kissed me again. My God, if it was possible to contact someone so quickly in a few hours, then we did it. Maybe it had to do with our history together. Maybe we still had strong, unresolved feelings for each other. Either way, I was already hooked. You better call me Joe, I mean it. It's the one thing you'll never have to worry about. I can't wait to see you again, and you haven't even left yet. Maddie rested her head on my chest as we slowly danced to the end of the song. When it was all over, we returned to our table. When we returned, Jay and Bethany were already sitting at the table kissing each other, and Mike and Kira followed us from the dance floor. This night was turning into a surreal one. Of course, we couldn't get 3 couples together in one night. We all finally came forward to wait for the taxi. We were still sitting in pairs and having separate small conversations. The first taxi pulled up to the 3 girls, and Maddie quickly kissed me and reminded me to call her before getting into the car with Bethany and Kira. I was left standing there with Jay and Mike. Joe, I owe you for this. Bethany is amazing. We already have another date lined up. Jay said. Me too. Kira asked me out. I was too nervous to ask in case she said no. Mike answered. Glad to help. Guys, tonight turned out great, better than I could have hoped for. It was Saturday morning, and I was feeling a little hungover, but not too bad. I thought about last night and Maddie. I couldn't get her out of my head anymore. After showering, I got dressed and headed to a cafe near my apartment to drink coffee and eat waffles. As I sat there eating breakfast, thinking about Maddie, my phone vibrated. Hello. Hey, Joe, I just realized I didn't give you my number last night. I just took yours, so I'll be sure to save it, okay? Of course I will. I was just thinking about you. No, that's not true. I was thinking about you all morning. But now I was thinking about you too. Really? Are you in love with me yet, Joe Thomas? If we were in Salem in the 16th century, I would have you arrested as a witch for casting a love spell on me. Oh my God, have you been practicing that line? Maddie laughed into the phone. Did you like it? Yeah, I liked it. Well, if I'm a witch and I put a spell on you, I can command you to do whatever I want, right? Absolutely. Then I order you to pick me up this morning and take me to lunch. Done. Send me your address and time, and I'll be there. I will. And Joe, thanks for last night. I haven't felt this happy in a long time. I know the feeling. I feel like I've hit the reset button on my life. I have a new place, a new job, new friends, and hopefully someone special to share it all with. If I find out who she is, I'll claw her eyes out. Maddie responded with a sinister laugh. What? I laughed at her unexpected answer. Well, we're not new, but I hope we can make it special this time. I'm up for it. Okay, my waffles are getting cold. Don't forget to text me your address. I'll do it right now. See you soon, Joe. Bye, Maddie. I arrived at Maddie's house and found no parking available in front of the building. Luckily, I saw Maddie coming out the front door of the building, so I blew my horn and waved. She looked gorgeous in a light blue summer dress with a floral pattern that matched her tan skin and long blonde hair. I was still hoping that she still had those amazing legs and cheerleader ass I remembered, which went well with her rather large, perky breasts. Always for guys, Maddie's attraction was her breasts and pretty face, but for me, it was her ass and legs that first caught my attention. I always thought that Maddie was definitely the sexiest cheerleader in our high school, and I was the luckiest guy on the football team because I dated her, and so did most of my teammates. She hopped into my very clean pickup truck, and I spent the last 2 hours of the morning cleaning it up for her. She leaned over and kissed me on the cheek. Where are you taking me for lunch, Joe? How about Pedro Point? We can grab some food along the way and then sit and look at the ocean. But it's a bit of a walk there. Sounds perfect. As we walked along the trail leading to the overlook, I took Maddie's hand, and she looked at me and smiled when I did. We sat on the grass at the end of the trail, looking out over the Pacific Ocean. What an amazing view it was as we sat there for a few minutes in silence, taking it all in. I took our lunch out of my backpack, and we started talking while eating sandwiches we bought along the way. I expected you to take me to a nice restaurant or cafe, but this is much better. I'm glad you liked the choice. I wanted to do something memorable. Going to a restaurant just wouldn't have left that impression. Maddie laid her head on my shoulder. You're making me nervous, Joe. What do you mean? Just a day ago, I didn't know where you were or what you were doing. Today, it's hard for me to imagine that we won't be together. This is all happening too quickly. I don't want to get hurt again. I'm sorry for what happened between us. I should have believed you. No, not that. I mean suffer after going through a divorce. I just completely left it behind a couple of months ago, and now I'm here with you. I can't date you for nothing. It's all or nothing for me, and that scares me. What exactly scares you? Falling in love again? Doesn't that scare you? To know what it's like when you're in love and everything goes wrong. I know what it is, but I won't let it stop me. The relationship I had with my ex-wife will never be like ours. You are so different from her. We are so different together compared to like I was with my ex. What about your ex? Are you going to say I resemble him? No, not at all. I always wanted him to be more like you, or how I remember you. But what if you're not the one I remember? What if you turn out to be more like him than I am? Honestly, I don't know your ex. I don't know what happened between you. But in my head, I'm still that guy from high school who fell in love with you. I've got a few scars and experiences since then, some good, some bad. But I'm still the same person. I'm still full of hope for a great life and sharing it with someone I love. Okay, but if you hurt me again, I won't give you a third chance. I won't need a third chance, I promise. Maddie raised her head, and we kissed tenderly. After dinner, we went back to Maddie's apartment to spend time together, although to be precise, we were more making love. I didn't push for sex. Maddie had already said how nervous she was about how fast things were happening, so I decided to take my time and let her decide the pace of our relationship. On Saturday night, Maddie had plans to go to the movies with Bethany, so we had a double date, Maddie and me, Bethany and Jay. I didn't stay the night, but on Sunday I went to dinner with my parents, after making sure that John and Susie would not be there. I took Maddie out to dinner twice the following week, and on Friday night we all met again, although this time there were 3 of us. It wasn't even 10 o'clock in the evening when Maddie leaned over and whispered to me as we sat at the table. Joe, can you take me home? Are you okay? Did something happen? No, it's okay. It's just the opposite. I want you to take me home. I looked into Maddie's eyes, raising my eyebrows. Are you sure? Yes, absolutely. Maddie then kissed me softly on the lips. We stood up, and I announced to our 4 friends that we were going home. I think everyone understood, and no one objected to our early departure. When we got back to Maddie's house, I followed her into the living room. Have a seat on the couch, Joe. I'll be right back. Do you want something to drink, Maddie? No, I'm fine. But if you want, you can get yourself something. I thought about it, but decided to abstain from alcohol. I haven't had much to drink this evening anyway, but maybe it would be better to just drink some water. I went back to the couch to get comfortable when Maddie came out of her bedroom. She was wearing a red satin nightgown, a very sexy red satin robe. I wasn't sure what she was wearing underneath, but I was hoping to find out soon. Oh my God, do you realize how good you are at this? Thanks, Joe. I bought it this week just for you. Thank you. Really, you look absolutely stunning. When Maddie sat next to me on the couch, she snuggled into my side, and we both kissed passionately. Then Maddie laughed. What's so funny? I'm trying to be smooth Joe here. It's just, I can't believe I feel as nervous, with butterflies in my stomach, as I did when we were about to do this the first time. I feel young again. It's all your fault, Joe. Don't worry, I feel the same way, if that's any reassurance. I was just feeling the performer's anxiety before you came out, afraid I'd had too much to drink tonight. Maddie smiled at me, gently stroking the side of my face with her hand. We've only been together a week, and I'm already falling in love with you all over again, Joe. I kissed Maddie softly on the lips. Me too. I'm so happy to be here with you, Madeline. Maddie laughed, kissing me back. Are we on you by full name now, Joseph? Only for tonight, until our wedding day. Maddie froze, looking at me, the smile disappearing from her face. She suddenly leaned forward and kissed me passionately, pushing me onto my back and straddling me, continuing to kiss me until she began to remove my shirt. I felt the warmth between our bodies as we lay there, enjoying a feeling of bliss that I had rarely experienced before. Oh God, that was so good, Joe. I missed you so much. I laughed at her words. Maddie pushed me so I rolled onto my back, and she turned towards me and laid her head on my chest. Tell me, Joe, was it that good for you too? I mean, I don't know how to put it. It was special, Maddie, very special. It was more than just good sex. It was like being reunited with you again. It's hard to describe. I started stroking her hair. Maddie lifted her head to look me in the eyes. I can't believe I'm already so in love with you. You know that, right? I love you too, Maddie. I really do. Over the next few weeks, Maddie and I were inseparable outside of work. I spent many nights at her apartment since it was closer to both of our jobs. I even started leaving some work clothes and a toothbrush with her to make life easier. It was amazing how quickly we got into our rhythm. It was like finally being with the other half of ourselves, feeling whole. The 12 months we were together in high school meant that we already knew each other well, but now that we were older and had more life experience, we were really starting to get to know ourselves on a much deeper level. It was Tuesday night, and we had just returned to Maddie's apartment after dinner when I sat back on the couch, waiting for her to return. I was thinking about how happy I felt. Maddie returned wearing a large t-shirt that was more like a dress. She settled down next to me on the sofa. Joe, I was thinking maybe we should talk about what happened in our marriages, just so we both know how we got here. What is this for? Probably to understand what happened. I don't want us to repeat the same mistakes. Okay, do you want me to start or do you? If you start, you'll probably have a longer story. Okay, where should I start? Well, how did you two meet and what kind of person was she? Not how you think of her now, but how she was then. We met at a bar when I was in my 3rd year. She was in business school at Mills College. She seemed nice, but not very talkative. It took a lot of effort to get her to talk to me at all, plus a couple of cocktails. I don't remember thinking that she was the one or anything like that, but rather we gradually got used to each other as we started dating. Anyway, I joined the Air Force after my apprenticeship, proposed 6 months after joining, and we got married about 6 months after that. Relationships in the service are difficult, especially if your partner doesn't move in with you. She had a job in the city, and she lived in our house in Oakland. We saw each other much less often than when we were together. How was she? How were you two together? Okay, she was driven, quite stubborn. I felt like she always had a hard time expressing her feelings or emotions and tended to keep her cards to herself, even with me sometimes. But she could be warm and funny when she was in the mood. It seemed to me that my task was always to get her to be in the mood. Sometimes I just didn't want to do it. When I was sent overseas, strangely, it seemed to help our relationship initially. We started missing each other more. When I got home, we were great for the first month or so. I could tell she was feeling lonely while I was away, so I arranged for her to work with Mom and Dad to run the business. That way she had family nearby to make it easier. We needed 2 incomes to pay the mortgage, so she moved overseas. Was not in the plans with me. although we could rent out our place and then she could travel with me. When did she start working with your parents? It was during my 3rd year in the military, about a year and a half after we got married. Were you around a lot after that? Is that when you started having problems? Yeah, I wasn't around much. I was in Germany the second half of my 3rd year. Then again, the last 6 months of my senior year. Those 6 months in between were spent at Edwards with one of the test squadrons, so I only came home on weekends. Did she become closer to John during this time? Yeah, I guess. I mean, they always got along fine, but I never suspected there was anything more there. While I was at Edwards, our relationship started to fall apart at the seams. In retrospect, I think it was, maybe because John started flirting with her at work. So you think she might have thought she could go from one brother to another who would be home all the time? Well, it's stupid if it was that simple. She knew my enlistment was coming to an end, and I never said I would renegotiate the contract. So, she started dating John when I only had 6 months left. Maybe she just fell in love with him. He knows how to convince. It didn't work on you, did it? No, but I wasn't away from you most of the time, and I wasn't close to John all that time. However, I would never have done that because I loved you, and it would have been so wrong. I felt it was so disgusting when he hit on me that night at the party, but I was a little drunk, so he just kept trying because I didn't directly tell him no. Why didn't you do it? He was your brother. I knew he was a little drunk too, and at first I thought he was just being a jerk. But then it got out of hand. You said he started touching you. What did he actually do? He'd come up from behind and grab my breasts. Then he'd hug me so I couldn't run away. Everyone thought it was funny and that we were just joking. I remember being angry that you weren't there because John never I wouldn't have done this if you were around. I was also angry at myself for not leaving the party at that moment. Yeah, I'm sorry about that too. So, what about your story? Well, I met my ex Simon when we were both sophomores in college. We started dating, and a year after graduating from college, we got engaged. We got married about 2 years after that. So you dated for a few years before you got engaged. Then it took you a few years to get married. Why so long? I don't know. I think now that maybe we both knew it shouldn't have happened, that maybe we were comfortable with what we had at the time. But you loved him, right? Yes, in the beginning, but perhaps, like in your relationship, we gradually grew further apart with each year that we were together. I think we ended up getting married in an attempt to save our relationship, also because of the pressure from our families and friends. We only lasted about 6 months, I mean the marriage. So what went wrong? You just decided to end it. No, he lost his job. Then he didn't like his new job. He started drinking more, and then he became aggressive. Really? He started hitting you. At first it was verbal attacks, then pushing and shoving. By the time he hit me one night during an argument, I don't even remember what it was about, but he came home drunk and angry and then started venting his frustrations on me until he hit me. It was too late, so I demanded he sleep on the couch that night, and the next morning he started again and hit me again. That was all. Did you call the police? Guys who hit women usually do it again. It needs to be written down so when the next woman complains, they know. Yes, I did. I got a restraining order and they forced him to move. I haven't seen him since. I'm sorry you had to go through that, with both John and Simon. I hope your other guys treated you well. You're my only other boyfriend, and you treat me well. So you weren't dating anyone in college before you met Simon. You were probably being courted the whole time. We were, but I still couldn't get over you at that time. I didn't want to go on dates or anything. I was just studying and hanging out with my friends. They're the ones who pushed me to start dating the next year. I got a lot of references to nuns. Mother Madeline was popular. I laughed at that, and Maddie hit me with a pillow. Tell me, Joe, do you think you'll ever forgive John for what happened? He's your brother after all. No, I don't see how that's possible. even forgetting for a moment about Susie or you. It's that he did this to me, that he betrayed my trust in this way. I've thought about it a lot since Susie left, that although he was my brother, we were never good friends. Perhaps if we were identical twins, it would be different, but we are not at all alike. He was always with me, but I never was. I didn't like spending time only with him. We were always with other people. And my friends, my girls, he always tried to take them away from me. Looking back, I understand that I never loved him. What if he wasn't my brother? I wouldn't be friends with him. As they say, Joe, you can choose your friends, but not your family. Yeah, but it's hard when your family is always with your friends. Mom and Dad always expected me to take him with me wherever I went, to always include him. I don't know why he never wanted to do his own thing, having my own friends. That's a big part of the reason why I joined the military, to finally get rid of him. Well, you're rid of him now. Let's go to bed. Joe, I need to feel you close. Wait, you said we had to talk about this to learn lessons. So what did we learn? Don't fall in love with bad people, I guess. Is that it? That we made bad choices in the people we loved? And don't settle for second place, maybe. Okay, I agree with that. Then I'll take my first and best girl to bed. Maddie leaned over and kissed me on the lips, then stood up and extended her hand, leading me into the bedroom. The next few weeks passed just like the previous ones, but now I was beginning to forget what life was like before I returned to Maddie. I felt so at peace with my life. Maybe this is what it means to be truly happy and in love. Maddie accompanied me last weekend to dinner at my parents'. Mom and Dad were happy to see her again. They were also happy to see how happy I was to be able to move on after Susie. I moved all my stuff into Maddie's apartment this week, since we were essentially already living together. It just didn't seem to make sense to keep paying rent twice. It was still just under 6 months since I officially separated from Susie and filed for divorce. However, Maddie's divorce was just finalized about 8 months after filing, so hopefully I only have a few months left. Mom's birthday is Thursday, but they had a party late Saturday afternoon at Mom and Dad's house. Many family and friends were invited, about 60 guests in total. This was one of the times where it would have been impossible to avoid seeing John and Susie without hurting Mom if I had decided not to come. I decided that I would not let them dictate my relationship with my parents. As we were getting dressed for the party, I looked at Maddie and she took my breath away. The dress she wore was not too provocative, even a little modest, but it emphasized the magnificent curves of her body. She also styled her hair into intricate weaves that I had never seen before. She looked subdued but absolutely stunning. I walked up behind her and hugged her waist, looking into her eyes through the mirror. Oh my God, you look gorgeous. I want you all to myself when you look so good. Maybe we'll come over later. I have a few ideas on how we could spend the day. Stop it, Joe. We'll have plenty of alone time after the party. Besides, I'm doing this all for you. Doing what? Be the most beautiful girl at the party. Yeah, I want Susie to know how much you miss her, and for John to want what he'll never have. All this just to make them jealous. I want them to know that we are the main course and they are the leftovers. Oh my God, can you be so devious and sweet at the same time? For your sake, I can be everything you need. I leaned down and kissed Maddie's bare neck. My God, how happy I am that she is with me. Plus, you look great. I'm glad you let me pick out new clothes for you. You can't wear a t-shirt and jeans all the time. I thought I looked good in a t-shirt and jeans. You look, but look at you now in a sports jacket and trousers. You could be a male model or a famous actor. I just need to fix your hair before we go. I want you to look perfect. We arrived at Mom and Dad's around 4:00 p.m., and there were already a lot of people here. The party took place in the backyard, where a large gazebo had been erected. As we walked through the house, greeting my cousins, aunts, and uncles, we ran into my mother coming out of the kitchen. When she saw us, she stopped in her tracks, smiled widely at both of us, and then greeted us with a hug. Oh my God, you two look straight out of a daytime TV romance show. You both look absolutely gorgeous. You look beautiful too, Mom, beautiful for a woman who is no more than 40. Oh, come on, Joe, is it really thanks to you that such a beautiful woman like Maddie got here? Well, happy birthday, Betty. Yes, Mom, happy birthday, and I hope this party is one to remember. When I gave my mom a birthday present and kissed her on the cheek. Thanks to both of you. Joe, Susie, and John are outside. Is that going to be a problem? Not from us, it's your night, so enjoy it. Although I had no intention of causing any problems at my mother's birthday party, I had no intention of talking to John or Susie. We walked out into the backyard and Dad spotted us, heading towards both of us. Hey Joe, hey Maddie. Oh, you look fantastic, Maddie. How my son could convince you to fall in love with him again is a mystery to me. Dad shook my hand and kissed Maddie on the cheek. I don't know, Bill, your son is a very attractive man. Maybe he inherited that from his father. Beautiful and smart. You're doing great, Joe. Yes, I was. Mom looks great for her birthday. She looks very happy. You know your mom, it's mostly a cover-up. She had been preparing and nervous about this party for the past few weeks. But I really hope she can really relax and start having a good time soon. I hope so too, Dad. Joe, your brother and Susie are there. Are you okay with that? Yes, as long as they don't come and start talking to us, everything will be fine. Okay, I'll tell them to leave you alone, okay? Great. We interacted with other guests. Most of them were relatives or friends of my parents. Some I knew, some not very well. Although everyone seemed to know who I was, perhaps with my height and build I was hard to miss. Most of the guests swooned over Maddie, everyone commenting on how beautiful she was. At one point, Maddie went into the kitchen to help her mom get more food, and I noticed Susie followed her. I shook my head. Susie has no idea who she's dealing with if she's talking back to Maddie. A few minutes later, Susie came out of the house, looking a little upset. She walked over to John, and I could see them trying to hide what was clearly some sort of argument. Susie then moved away from him, sitting away from where John was standing. Mom, Maddie, and one of my aunts carried trays of food from the house to the gazebo. I watched Maddie as she looked at John and then at me with a slight devilish smile. God, how I love this woman. After Maddie helped with the food, she walked towards me with an air of confidence and, one might even say, smugness on her face. You're naughty, aren't you? I whispered quietly as Maddie stood next to me. You can't even imagine. I'm dying to know what happened. I'll tell you when we get home. Just enjoy how uncomfortable Susie and John feel for the rest of the evening. I looked at Maddie, unable to hide my smile, and kissed her softly on the lips. As soon as my divorce is finalized, I will marry you. I don't want an engagement. I just want to marry you as soon as possible. Will you at least ask me if I want to marry you? I'll ask, get on my knees and do everything by the book. Even if it helps, I'll serenade you. Looking forward to it, Joe. I'm not sure about your singing, though. That's probably the only thing you're not very good at. Okay, then I'll hire someone. I laughed along with Maddie. Maddie was right. Susie and John barely spoke the entire evening, and when they did, Susie's expression was clearly hostile towards him. I don't consider myself a vindictive person, but I have to admit that it was wonderful to see. Later, I went into the house to use the restroom, and when I came out, John was standing at the door, waiting his turn. There was tension on his face as I walked towards him. He stepped aside to let me through. I glanced at him disdainfully as I passed by and shook my head slightly. This was the only interaction I had with John the entire evening. After the party, I drove Maddie back to her apartment, which was now truly our apartment. As we undressed, I was eager to hear the details of the conversation between Maddie and Susie, but Maddie made me wait, insisting that we shower together first. As we stepped into the shower and the warm water flowed over us, I turned to Maddie, looking down at her gorgeous face and perfect body. When she's naked and wet, God, she should be in a painting or in a big photo frame hanging on the wall. So, do you want to know what happened at the party? I nodded, squeezing her buttocks. Well, I went into the kitchen to prepare some dishes with your mom, but she had to go to the bathroom first. So I was left alone when Susie came in and stood next to me, starting to place food on one of the trays. Maddie laid her head on my chest as she continued her story. Susie started talking to me. So, you're Joe's new girlfriend. Well, I'm his wife, Susie. Soon-to-be ex-wife, you mean? Plus, I'm not just Joe's new girlfriend, I'm Maddie, Joe's first girlfriend, the first girl he fell in love with, and soon to be his wife. I think it surprised her a little. And? Surely that's not all, Maddie. Who's telling the story, Joe? Maddie continued. I have to thank you, Susie, for giving up such a wonderful guy like Joe for a little guy like John. You made it possible for Joe and I to fall in love again. Joe already broke up with you once. What makes you think he won't do it again? Joe didn't break up with me last time. I left because he didn't believe me that his precious brother would try to steal his girl. John has a history of doing this, you know, wanting everything Joe, his friends, his girls, his wife. John knows how to get what he wants. He didn't get me. I would never stoop that low. He was really rude to me. Such a great guy you have. Seriously, you better watch him when he's drunk or angry. Guys like that don't take rejection well. She looked at me for a few moments before leaving the kitchen. I know that look, Joe. It was like she knew what John really was like. I think maybe he was already rough with her. Maybe not physically yet, but I think she realized it. That would explain their fight when she got back to John. She didn't want to be around him for the rest of the evening. I bet he was already being a manipulative asshole to her to get her to do what he wanted. John could probably be a completely different person when you weren't around. It's like your presence was the only thing keeping him in line. He could be a real conniving bastard when you weren't around. Shows how well you can know someone. Why didn't any of you tell me he was like that? What? Tell your twin that you love that he's a jerk who probably hates you. Plus, he was always there when you were there. It was almost impossible to talk to you about him when he was always there. I didn't want it because I was afraid that you wouldn't believe me. Until that party happened. And even then I was right. You didn't believe me. Yeah, I can't believe I didn't see his real face. I was so naive. No, Joe, you're just a decent person who wants to see the good in people. Don't let him change that about you. Maddie turned off the shower and grabbed some towels. Story time is over. Let's go to bed. Besides, I have something else to tell you. I quickly dried myself off and followed Maddie into the bedroom, snuggling under the covers with her. So what did you want to tell me? Do you want to guess? Okay, I'm the best lover you've ever had. Well, yes, but that's not the answer. What? You can't wait to marry me? True again, but not the answer. That you are the most delightful woman I have ever seen. Come on, Joe, stop making jokes. I was silent for a moment, feeling her breath on my face as we lay in the dark. Okay, then I guess you're pregnant. Yes. I kissed Maddie slowly. The kiss seemed like an eternity. And what? Well, luckily, I don't want an engagement, do I? I can't let you walk down the aisle like that. How pregnant are you? Not very far. I went in for tests this week to confirm. Aren't you upset that we didn't discuss this beforehand? I was switching contraceptives, so that's probably what happened. No, I'm happy, truly. I can't wait to marry you, buy our own house, and have 4 kids running around. 4? Wait, I want to keep my figure, you know. I'm sure you'll be the sexiest mom in the town, the fittest mom in the bay. You say the most flattering things, Joe. Yes, I love you, Maddie. And I love you too, Joe. My divorce was finalized less than 2 months after I filed for it. about 7 months after I separated from Susie. Maddie and I got married 2 weeks after that. It was a small ceremony with family and friends. Bethany and Kyra were bridesmaids and Joe and Mike were my best man. We bought a house in San Bruno that needed a lot of renovation, but my dad and the guys at work helped me a lot. Our son Mason was born 6 months after our wedding. Maddie is pregnant again. Our second child, according to ultrasound scans, will be a girl. My mom and dad are now happy grandparents, still running the family business, but without John or Susie. Susie left John a few months after I remarried. I heard from my parents that she had gotten a restraining order on her brother and had moved back to the Midwest to be with her family. Maddie was right. He became aggressive with her. It was a big deal for my parents. They kicked him out of business. He's still a quiet partner like me, but now works for another contractor somewhere in San Jose. As for me and Maddie, well, Dad was right. Everything worked out for the best. We couldn't be happier, and Maddie is still the love of my life. Subscribe to our channel so that your love doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think, click to the next one.